That really is excellent music to help get us going every single time we made it to another Friday. I can't believe it. And it's a 3-day weekend Friday. Hi, everybody. Welcome to all of you who are watching us on what social media platforms are we on? We're on Twitch. Hello, everybody on Twitch, you gamers and the like, and YouTube. Hey, everybody over there. YouTube's an amazing place, isn't it? And on Facebook. I'm Bill Schaefer, and this is Growing Bolder Now. And we're going to start you off with a little bit of a quiz here, I guess. What do people fear? What do people fear the most about aging? Obviously, health. Health is a big one. The loss of independence is a good one too. Well, there's another one that cracks the top 5 things that we fear the most about aging, and it's isolation and loneliness. As we age, as we move on to different life stages, especially if we retire, we don't go out as much. We don't see as many people as we did. And sometimes we sort of begin to isolate ourselves. And of course, having a pandemic has made an already significant problem way worse. Well, we are going to take kind of a different look at isolation from a woman with a unique perspective who has always had an unusual way of looking at everything in life. And I know you're going to love her. We're about to be joined by the legendary comedy writer, Susan Silver. Check her out there. She wrote for some of the greatest sitcoms of all time. I'm talking about The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Bob Newhart, The Partridge Family. And remember Movie of the Week? She wrote a few of those too. She's got an incredible podcast called Susan Says, where she lends her wisdom to all kinds of topics. Maybe living alone is one of them. And best of all, she has written a book, a fantastic book about her experiences as one of the only women, maybe one of the first women, one of the very first to break the good old boys club. There's the book that used to be the norm in television. It's an amazing read. The book is called Hot Pants in Hollywood: Sex, Secrets, and Sitcoms. So let's find out about that as well by saying hello to Susan Silver. Susan, how are you?
Hi. I was going to wear my mask. Nasty women remember, but I didn't want anyone to get upset. So hi, Bill.
No, we'll get to know you a little bit first, and then we'll appreciate that a little bit better. We haven't talked, I guess, Susan, in a few months, I guess. How are you?
I think longer. Well, the first thing you may notice is I've gone silver. During the pandemic, it matches my last name, and it turned out this way. It's a good thing my name wasn't fuchsia or green or something. But yeah, I've gone silver, and I love it. And it's saving me a ton of money a year, which I will spend on going out of the house if I ever do again.
Well, see, I decided to go silver and flesh as well, kind of the combination. But we had on this program, we had a woman named Angel Cornelius on, and she went prematurely silver, of course, like you and I have gone way prematurely silver. And she worked in like healthcare. She works at a hospital. But Susan, she at her kitchen table started to read and experiment with different organic products, and she came up with she says most shampoos turn silver hair sort of purple.
I hear that's a problem with people. Yeah,
she came up with a whole line, not just shampoo but skincare, but especially the shampoo for silver hair, and it's spectacular. She's beautiful,
and she's an angel, so you get wings also if you use her products.
See, you are as well. Silver hair can be striking.
I use baby shampoo. I love it. And I've joined this thing. Everything's on Facebook. As you know, there's a group going gray and stuff, and everybody asks people questions and we share things. And I am loving it. Plus, as I said, most importantly, it saves me a heck of a lot of money.
It's great. Already people, Susan, are watching us on Facebook. Patricia Bishop is here from Stafford, Texas. She loves your hair, Susan. She thinks it's fantastic. So, folks, let us know where you're watching from, and send along your comments as well, because Susan,
but only nice ones,
only nice ones. That's all you ever get. And really, we touch on some interesting topics. Susan is a fascinating person, and her experiences and her life journey has led her. Man, you're not a one-trick pony at all. You've done so many different things, which we'll get to. And these days, you're living in New York, living alone, and thanks to COVID, you've barely gone out the door, I'm guessing, for like 18 months or so.
I'll tell you, I always said I'm going to be a fabulous old lady because I was an only child. I'm a writer. Excuse me. I know how to live inside my head. I haven't been such a great, and I'm between 50 and death, so that also qualifies me. But I haven't been so great. It's been kind of weird. I'm very lucky. I have a garden, which is very rare in New York. So I do go out and I get some air. But in the first year, I went out 12 times. I went to the bank and to the dentist and to the park, which is across the street. And it's not good. It's not a good thing to do. But I just, I don't know, I didn't want to be sick. And I got my vaccinations, as I hope everybody has. I'm waiting for my booster. And when I get my booster, then I'm going to travel. I'm going to actually get on a plane and come to Florida, Bill, to see you.
Oh, we can't wait to see you. And I think too that part of it, Susan, is that your lifestyle was all about travel. You've got, I mean, internationally, you've traveled the country, especially with your book tour, going around with that great book, Hot Pants in Hollywood. How what was it like for you when all of us, it didn't like gradually happen. One day you're doing all these tours and making plans, and the next day you're home in your place and not going anywhere.
It's weird. And I remember to the day I went to the dentist, March 12th, 2020, and then I was home for the next year. You know, I think we're all, and anecdotally, shrinks, including my own, have said they've had more people calling to say they're depressed and anxious, and it's something we're all sharing. And I'm so grateful for the internet because I do love being on the internet. I'm on all the time. And whenever there's an award show, I watch it on Twitter with my followers or on Facebook or something. And we're always talking to each other. And I think that's so important at this time. I don't have family. I have godchildren around the world, and 3 soldiers I adopted from Israel. When I say I adopted, I sent to college, and they're my family, but they're not, you know, within seeing, and I haven't been on a plane. So it's tough. It's tough for everybody. And I think that you have to do a few things. You have to find humor in everything. Even in my book, when I was in the hospital and I was in serious condition, I always found humor. That is a saving grace. And if you're not particularly funny yourself, you know, watch comedies. That's a good thing to do. I find it hard to concentrate on reading. So I've been watching a ton of television, and I and other people are watching tremendous true life detective things. I don't know why. Well, I guess I do know why. At the end, they resolve it. They give you closure and they find the guy. But is it murder, suicide? Is it serial killers? I now know everything about them. And I don't know why that's become my go-to. I think to avoid the news, maybe. I'm not sure.
Well, we were talking, Susan, you and I, and it's because so little in life these days ends up resolving, ends up going anywhere. The bad guys don't get in trouble. The mistakes aren't corrected. And so when you're watching a show that has an end, a closure, the bad guy gets it or something, it's satisfying. You know, we're craving that these days.
Absolutely.
Do you think that's part of it?
Absolutely. Also, though, I finally got back to reading. And, you know, this is what, of course, I would love everybody to read my book because they'll get to laugh and cry a little bit and you know, a lot of those kind of things, showbiz things. But I found 3 great books I'd love to recommend if I may. I have no...
What do you think this is, Oprah?
Yeah, my 3 great books, because it's so fabulous to read. I've read my whole life, and lately I haven't been able to. But when you find something that engages you, Mike Nichols, the book about Mike Nichols by Mark Harris, is terrific showbiz stuff. And Mike Nichols, for those of you who know and don't know, had an extraordinary childhood. He came over from the Holocaust on a boat with his brother at the age of 9, alone, 7-year-old and 9-year-old. I mean, and went on to be one of the great humorists of our time. So that's a good book. And another fabulous book that I'm doling out to myself 1 chapter a day because I don't want it to end. It's called First Friends. And it's by Gary Ginsberg, whom I don't know. It's about presidents and their best buddies. And it goes all the way back in history up to the future. And there are 9 chapters. And it is so amazing. I don't know enough about history. So you're getting all the gossip of the relationship. Plus you're getting amazing history. And Harry Truman, my gosh, what an extraordinary guy he was. Came from a haberdashery store, you know, to be president. So it's a really cool book. And then the 3rd book is a little racy, as is my book. I should add that, a little racy. This 3rd book is called Nemesis, and it's about Aristotle Onassis, Jackie Kennedy, and some scandalous things that supposedly went on. I just started it. That's a good book. So that plus Hot Pants in Hollywood will keep you very busy, and hopefully you'll have a few laughs.
Well, we're going to talk about Hot Pants, but I'm intrigued. Presidential wingmen. Never really thought about
Best buddies. It's so
Yeah,
important that they had one guy that they could talk to, because they're all guys, of course, except guess who had a woman? Not JFK.
Roosevelt.
Yes. He
How
had
about that? 10
cousin.
points.
You knew that. And it was not a sexual relationship. He had affairs with other people, but it was the most in-depth. They went for rides in the car. I didn't realize he had a car that was fixed so he could drive, even though he had polio. And it's so amazing what was going on in the world at the time. It's a great, great book. And I give myself one chapter a day because I don't want it to end.
This idea is great. I think it would make a fantastic sitcom. You know, we could have a president, and I see the wingman being like Josh Gad or somebody like that, and they could sneak out of the White House.
Smart. Not that he's not. I don't know anything about Josh.
Hey, listen, Susan, you're dinging the meter here. We got a lot of people stepping in to want to say hi to you. Brenna Mitchell calls you her silver sister.
Oh yeah,
very cool.
Good. It's good.
And you asked me before the program began to mention your soldier son from Israel, and he's here watching. Ohad Gaon.
Oh my God, Ohad! I'm so thrilled.
Oh, if we would have known, we would have made a connection with him and added him to the stream here today. What do you mean when you said that you sent some soldiers to school?
I went on a fabulous mission to Israel with the Friends of the Israel Defense Force, and they are a fabulous worldwide organization that supports the soldiers. So when you go to Israel, you want to see everything, no matter what your religion. You want to see all the fabulous places. But with them, you get to meet the kids, meet the soldiers. And they have a program called Impact, where you send a soldier to college. And it's so much cheaper to go to college in Israel than it is here. So I and another guy on the trip met a soldier. We took him. Then we got another soldier. We took him. And then we got a third soldier. I took him. So I have 3 soldiers we sent to college. And now they've all graduated. They're very successful. They're married. They have children. And one is in Florida. One is in Germany. And Ohad is in Israel still. And I'm so excited.
You know, a lot of us would say, wow, that would be a nice thing to do for somebody, but very few of us actually step up to do that. What was that point of inflection that made you actually do it?
I'll tell you the truth. We went to a base, and I sat down next to this kid who was so adorable. He had come from Russia on his own, and he wasn't even Jewish. And we all fell in love with him. And then we were told about the program, and I said to my friend Mark that I'd bet on the trip, let's make him our soldier. And a lot of people send the money, and it's a wonderful thing to do, but I decided to get involved with my kids. So I Skype with them, I visit them, I go to see them, they come here, we have real relationships. And because I have no kids or grandkids, I now have 3 sets of family.
That's unbelievable. That's such a great story. And it shows that we all have the ability to touch somebody's life and to make a difference in a meaningful way, whatever is within our means and wherever our life has led us. And I think that's a great example of that. More people here. Zach Pammer is here, and he also served his country overseas. He says he loves the program. He's a great guy, recently married, just a fantastic guy as well. So quality people follow you around, Susan. Deb Eigel is here from Massachusetts. Thea Daniels, The Art of Human Connection. Brenda Stewart. Leor Ophir.
Leor's my soldier from Florida.
Oh, that's unbelievable. That's fantastic. And that must be such a rewarding and great feeling as well.
You know, one of the things I've spoken to you about was if I ever can get myself out of bed, I want to do a speech called the new 3 R's. It's not reading, writing, and arithmetic anymore. It's resilience, which I didn't know I had till I wrote my book. Reinvention, which you have to do every 20 years or you get bored. And relationships. Relationships are the most important thing. And you say what keeps you going now when you're alone is you have them to reach out to, and they send you pictures, and it's like having a real family for those of you who do.
All right. You know what? I almost forgot to ask you, and I just wanted to because I know you're in New York. We have seen all kinds of video of what's going on up there with the flooding from
It's
Ida.
unbelievable. Mostly New Jersey. Look, I mean, it's so frightening. They weren't prepared. And the subways were flooded, and people have passed away, sadly. And there were 2 fires in New Jersey. They couldn't get to them because of this water. It's just frightening. And may I say, it comes from climate change. Hello, climate change, people.
But look at that. Have you seen, does this happen
No.
up there from time to time?
And that's another reason I haven't left the house. I don't want to see it. Fortunately, where I live in Manhattan, we didn't have this, but all over New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, terrible, terrible things. And, our infrastructure is not based on that. And the subway closed for the first time ever. Yes.
Look at that, Susan.
Yeah.
That's down in the subway.
And people were still walking down the stairs when that was happening. So there you go. So climate change, people, it's real. We better get there. That and take your vaccines. Those are my 2 lessons for today, if I may.
Yeah, if only there was any evidence of climate change.
Yeah, right. No fires, nothing.
Yeah. Hey, before we go any further down that road, let's take another left turn here, because another really interesting, something that we can talk to you about, because about him, is it's just 5 days ago that the unforgettable Lou Grant from the Mary Tyler Moore Show, Ed Asner, passed away. Tell us a little bit about Ed.
My Ed, I call him my teddy bear buddy. I love him. So he was flirtatious and fun and sexy, and I loved him. And I was fortunate enough to have written a script that he won his Emmy for, his second Emmy. And he mentioned my name on television. My mother was thrilled. And he also blurbed my book. Can I read what he said? It was so amazing. May I?
Really, that would be awesome.
Okay, it says, it's a little self-serving, but he's so cute, you'll see. When I first met Susan Silver, I thought she was too gorgeous to be a comedy writer. Then I delivered her lines and got an Emmy. There is a word in Yiddish for taste. It's called tam. I'm happy to report that even the sexy parts in her terrific book are done with tam.
Wow.
He was great. And he did over 400 performances in his life, theater, TV, film, and he was very involved in politics, and he was a philanthropist, and he had a wonderful, long, beautiful life. And at 91, he died peacefully. And, if we all could have such a great life and go in that way, I think it would be terrific.
President of the Screen Actors Guild, right?
Also, twice.
Yeah, unbelievable. Because he wanted to be involved. See, that's the other thing. He wanted to be part of the craft that he made his career out of. Where are people like that today?
I don't know. He is beloved. I mean, you saw after he passed the amount of love and he was so fun. About 2 years ago, he did a play in New York, and I took one of my friends and we went backstage into the dressing room, and he gave her a hug. She still hasn't gotten over that. He was just a fun, great, cool guy.
As a writer, Susan, were you guys buddy? Did you have access, or were you some anonymous person that?
No. One of the great things about Mary Tyler Moore Show, which was the first show I did, so I say this all the time, it was like starting on top and then 20 years downhill after that. But I thought every show was going to be like this. You went for your meetings, you pitched your story to the producers and directors, then you wrote your script, you turned it back in, and most shows that would be it. With this show, they invited you to come to the table where there would be the readings. If there were changes, you were involved. You went to the taping, and you just, had relationships. And then, of course, by a stroke of amazing luck, I wound up living 2 doors from Mary in New York. So, and her husband was a doctor whose office was in my building, so I got to see her some. And I kept up with Valerie and with Ed.
Valerie was a frequent guest on the program here, and we just loved her attitude. And she was, she was such a greatest,
most extraordinary person. And yeah.
So that picture we put up a second ago, I mean, nothing makes us feel how quickly time passes by than when we hear of.
Betty is still going at 99.
And Susan, she's the only one that's still with us. And most, like Cloris and Ed, Cloris was on the program too. We talked to her, Susan, and she was in a dental chair. She had a dental appointment, but she didn't want to cancel it.
Oh, you're kidding. That's
no, we should cue that up and play that again, because
that's
so
typical
funny.
Cloris. She was, when we shot the show, they have marks where they're supposed to go for the camera to catch them. So Mary would always go right to her mark. Val would think a little bit, Cloris would be walking around the whole time. The camera could never find her. They had to, she was real character. And Gavin was a lovely guy. they were the nicest, greatest people, and it was a family.
We've had Gavin on the program too. He came down and talked about his tough times in life. And, you look at those smiling faces and you think everybody's had it so easy, but all of us have challenges and ups and downs to deal with. It's just because they're frozen on film at that moment in time forever. And it's almost to us like they never grow old. Does it seem to you? Does it seem like another life? Does it seem like yesterday?
It seems like a really, really, really long time ago. Even though I'm between 50 and death, I said I was writing in the womb, which was a very rare thing at the time. And I had a little typewriter in there. And my mother kind of felt when I, changed the ribbon and stuff. But no, seriously, I was very young, and it was a long, long time ago. But those shows are still rerunning, and they still hold, and people still love them. And when I did my book tour, I cannot tell you how many people came up to me, gay guys and single women, saying that their Saturday nights were based around Mary Tyler Moore Show. And one guy, I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. I thought you were.
One guy came up to me and he said, my mother was flying in from Europe to visit me, and she was arriving on a Saturday night. And I said, Mother, you're going to have to take a cab from the airport because I'm busy watching Mary Tyler Moore. I said, oh, I'm sure your mother appreciated that. But people love that show, and it's held up.
Yeah. What a great show to be a part of. You talked about that being your first writing gig, but you worked for a Laugh-In.
Laugh-In.
Before.
Rhoda Martin's Laugh-In is, younger people Google that. Older people remember. It was the first sort of satiric, fun comedy show. And
I bet your sweet Bippy it was.
We better explain what that is. I don't know what it was, but it was one of the sayings. I did the casting for that, and I was the assistant casting person. I had done casting in advertising, and I got this job, my first job in TV. It was so exciting. And I sat out in the lobby to greet people as they came in. And one day, this enormously scary guy came in with like black witch-like hair and an outfit and everything. And I was like so scared, I almost screamed, but it was Tiny Tim, who was a real icon of the day. He was one of our guests. Everybody guested on that show, including Richard Nixon. And it was quite an amazing thing. And then, sad to say, my boss, who was an elderly man, passed away, and they made me the casting director. So I had nothing to do with his passing away. And that was a really great job. But I wanted to write, and I met a girl named Iris Raynor Dart, whom you know as the writer of Beaches and other wonderful things. And she was managed by the great late Gary Marshall, director, producer, actor. And he had a little management company for new writers. And she and I wrote A Love American Style. And then she took a break to have a baby. And I saw the Mary Tyler Moore Show. I said, oh, God, Gary, I can do this. She's from Minneapolis. I'm from Milwaukee. It's the same thing. They both start with M. I worked in a local TV station. She worked in please. So he got me an appointment there. And they said, if we get picked up, they started mid-season. If we get picked up for the next half season, you'll be the first writer. And I was. And it was amazing. As I said, it was downhill for 20 years after that.
You peaked early. And were you there when he said, "Sock it to me"?
Yes, I was. I was in the makeup room with him because, as you recall, he needed makeup, shall we say, from the debate. He didn't wear makeup. And I was so hoping, since I was a Democrat, that I could get the makeup people to do a bad job, but they didn't. Anyway, he was supposed to say, the saying of the show was, "Sock it to me." And we're supposed to say it as a question, "Sock it to me?" And it took 6 times for him to get it. But anyway, supposedly we were responsible for electing him president because people saw another side of him. I am so sorry. Democrats, I'm very sorry.
Was Laugh-In, wasn't that the first TV show that kind of was like a rock band? They were like the Rolling Stones. It was just crazy and mayhem everywhere.
It was Goldie Hawn and Lily Tomlin and wonderful guests, but it moved very quickly and it was satirical, and he actually got, I don't know if he did, but J. Edgar Hoover had us on the naughty list because some of the comics, and some of the remarks were a little political, shall we say. To the left, let's put it that way.
And Lily Tomlin is someone who's kind of popped into your life on and off the whole way.
Oh, Lily was great. And this is so pathetic, but one time she and her manager came to my house. Wait, I'm looking for if I can find the picture here. And my dog, whom I loved, I've never had a pet in my life, and I was so afraid and so nervous. And so I trained him to hold it outside and go when people came to visit. And so my dog Pumpkin peed on Lily Tomlin's foot. And I didn't get the job. I'm not saying it's the dog's fault or anything, but
No, you'd never blame others. Hey, you know what I wanted to ask you, because God, you're so funny. You're such a great storyteller. Did you ever consider being in front of the camera? I mean, you are, and you were. What Ed Asner said about you being stunning. You were absolutely stunning.
I did do, I'm not an actress because I can't remember my lines. And when I went on a few auditions, I was going to be a model and I had pictures. I couldn't take the rejection because it's you they don't like. It's not your words. Oh, she's wrong. We don't like. But I have done a lot of on-camera TV. I've done the Today Show and Good Day New York and Fox and a lot of that. I love doing that. And for the book, I did, Oh my God, I didn't know you had that. That was my modeling picture. Oh my God, where did you get that?
What do you mean, where did I get it? It's a poster on my wall, on the wall in my house.
Oh, wow, that was, oh, that's not me.
It's not?
No.
Well, go back to the other one.
But who is that?
Check that out.
I picture of me in a bathing suit, but maybe that's what you were thinking that was.
So is Ed right? I mean, were there, I mean, that was a different era then, wasn't it? I mean, not that it's any better.
Before Me Too. Do you
Yeah.
know, it's so interesting. I discuss it with my friends all the time. It rarely happened. And I've escaped, as I've told you this before, 5 of the biggest gropers, including Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein. I guess I'm not gropable or whatever. But back in the day, it was mostly actresses, I think. I was a writer. I was married, and I was a big mouth, nasty broad. So maybe I intimidated, whatever, thank God. But yeah, it's terrible, but it's always gone on. And now they're getting a hold of it. So good.
Your parents, Susan, when you went from Milwaukee to Hollywood, your parents must have been terrified. Our beautiful daughter is.
They didn't want me to go. Listen, I was the scaredy kid. I wasn't allowed to cross the main street till I was 12. So I've come from, and I don't know how to swim. You know, I'm like the scaredy kid who's overcome some things. So they were afraid.
And you talk in your book, I mean, they were afraid with reason. You talk in your book, folks, you got to pick up hot pants in Hollywood because she had encounters with Bill Cosby.
Yeah, that would have been terrible. But I went to live with my uncle, who was a well-known director named Cy Howard. And I lived in his house my first semester. And so I was a little protected. And that's where, for the older viewers, on a New Year's Eve, I met Lenny Bruce's mother and he fixed me up with him. And my uncle said, "You're not going." I said, "Why? Why not?" He said, "Because he's 30 years older than you and he's a drug addict comic." I said, "Well, I'm going." So my uncle went on the date with us, which was, and my uncle and he got along fabulously. And I was terrified the whole time. So I was this fearful kid who little by little overbecame her fears.
Did those kind of things help you not be so starstruck? I can imagine, you know, there's when you're a writer, you're kind of sequestered over here and the performers are here, but you are putting words in their mouth for them. Is that kind of a difficult thing to
No, you know, something funny. I never thought of that, but when I was doing casting, and I'm laughing, I literally met everybody. I never was starstruck. I must say I wasn't. I don't know why. I did think, however, when I first started writing, that you were only allowed to tell the truth of things from your own life. So I never made anything up. And pretty soon I ran out of stories. So I would be like looking through the phone book, airplane, what's a story about an airplane? You know, I didn't realize you're allowed to make things up. But it's a learning process, you know, and I learned the craft from Gary. And in school, I was in film school. We never learned anything at Northwestern or UCLA about the realities of the business. Now the kids are much more sophisticated. I mean, USC, UCLA, my graduate student teacher, though, was Francis Ford Coppola, which was amazing. And in his class, I wrote a screenplay and I won an award from the Writers Guild. So that was my first real exposure to the real world of showbiz.
It's amazing. And your timing was unbelievable too, because I think wasn't Marlo Thomas one of the first to have a show that starred a female character who wasn't like somebody's wife or, you know.
Marlo was the first real feminist because she owned the company and she was the executive producer. And Iris and I, as a matter of fact, had written That Girl, and we were so proud of it. It was about her getting married once she was engaged to Donald. And at the end, Marla said, you know what? I'm not going to marry him. She didn't want to be that sort of stereotypical married woman. So she wanted to keep her career going, and they didn't shoot our script, but they did pay us for it. But yeah, that was the beginning. And then Mary was the next evolution of that. And then so many people from Tina Fey and others talk about how Mary inspired them. So it's a progression. And I came along at the right time.
Right, because imagine this, guy, folks, all of these guys are trying to write scripts for Marlo Thomas, for Mary, and even simple things that they would come up with, women just wouldn't react that way or say that way. And here's Susan, the one to stand up and say, well, let me have a chance.
Well, what happened was Iris and I were sitting in the office, and two guys in maybe their 50s with gray hair came out, and I heard them say, gee, would she say that? Would she say that? And I said, if we're asking if the character would say that when we're in our 50s, shoot us now. But anyway, that shows you I didn't know anything. But the truth of it is really that women have a different language, and the guys at Mary Tyler Moore wanted that language. They'd say in a meeting, now Mary goes and gets cleaned up. And I'd say, no, we don't get cleaned up. We take a bath or a shower. It's just a little difference in language. And it kind of changed the face of women on TV.
It's amazing how much it did, because it became more of the norm, and it started with that era and the projects that you were involved in. Even the Partridge Family, Shirley Jones is running a family without a husband anywhere.
Yeah, and I put her in hot pants. I do have to say one thing to the listeners, and when you read the book, hot pants was not my behavior. It was my wardrobe. And in those days, they actually wore them, and I wore them once to a meeting, and I got an article about it, and I put Shirley Jones in hot pants. And there again, I wrote from my own life, even though I didn't have a family of musical kids. So yeah, she was also a groundbreaker in many ways.
It was such a great era in television and in music as well. And I see one of the people that just said hi and is really enjoying the interview is Mark Loria, is a friend of mine who is an amazing guitar player, wondering if you had any contact with any of the musicians of that era as well.
As a matter of fact, one of my closest friends in college was Jim Morrison of The Doors. He was this very sensitive guy with when your mother didn't, but somebody's mother put a bowl around their head and cut their hair. That was the kind of haircut. He was very sweet and very sensitive. And we had two friends who were the wild ones, Max and Liz, a guy with leather and long hair, and his girlfriend, they rode motorcycles. And I think Jim kind of took his persona from Max. Also, let's see, went out with Tom Jones once. That's in the book. Who else in music? I did get to see the Beatles when they came to Milwaukee at a press conference, but I didn't get to meet them. And George was my favorite.
So you knew Jim Morrison very well. Was he the guy that I don't want to say that Val Kilmer portrayed, but that's what a lot of us have to go on? Or was he that guy that got arrested in Miami? Did that seem in character to you?
None of it did, because as I said, he was this very sweet, shy guy. We would eat lunch there was a truck in the theater department area. And he was a poet and he was very sensitive, but this other couple were very wild bikers. And somehow he transitioned into that, I guess. And all of a sudden, and also sadly was on drugs and stuff. But to me, he was the sweet, sensitive guy that I adored.
Boy, Susan, what an amazing life. You connected with some just fascinating projects and fascinating
scary
people.
How many people, I swear to you, I made a list once, and it is so, I only have 3 real talents, I'll tell you. One of them is I know how to pack really perfectly. I don't take too much or too little. I'm really good at that. Number 2 is I know how to spot a star. I don't know why. It's just when I was on my honeymoon in Hawaii, I was on the beach and I saw this guy walking like a block away. And I said to my husband then, that's David Jansen. I have to go get him and get him to be on Laugh-In. He said, how would you know that? I did. Anyway. And then my 3rd talent is knowing where to stand in the room when important people are coming in. And like Princess Di or Fergie or whatever, So those are 3 talents that help me in my career. But I've met over like 100 iconic people, and it's really scary. It's very scary. And they're probably running now away from me, thinking I'm a stalker.
Well, it's a good thing you know how to pack, because I didn't realize what.
If I ever go on a trip again, I'll know what to take.
You know who would really like that is Steve Marshall, a friend of mine who has just chimed in. He's in Japan and he's a magician, and he was on our program as a guest because he went to the other side of the world to follow his craft, and he was such an interesting interview.
Can he make
And
all these things disappear?
no, he makes them appear opportunities. In fact, he's making an opportunity for his daughter, who's like 22 and getting in the acting business now, which is probably, I don't know, you think it's more difficult now than it was back when you were writing?
Yes and no. I mean, there are more outlets now, and you can do your own TikTok thing, and you can do that. But it's a tough business. It's a tough business. And as I said, as an actress, when you go on auditions and they reject you, you have to learn how to take rejection. I never could do it. And as I said, I found out I'm a lot more resilient than I thought I was, but I still can't take the rejection. So, I mean, good luck to her, but it's a tough business.
You say that, Susan, but still you get involved even when you were doing less writing, and you would get involved in life, like with the soldiers in Israel and working for Holocaust remembrance and for going through your cancer battle.
Yeah.
I mean, you're always
Well, you have to reinvent yourself. So 20 years of writing, then I took a year off. I moved to New York. I was fortunate to be able to do that. And I met with 60 people. I networked. And I realized I wanted to get involved in Holocaust organizations. And I became the head of the Speakers Bureau for the Anti-Defamation League. I did that for a couple of years. And then I was the UN observer for the Simon Wiesenthal Center, which was a very difficult thing because the UN is not the most friendly place for Israel. You have to reinvent yourself just for your own boredom's sake. You need to find new passions all the time. And one of the things that's tough now, as people know, lying around the house, it's very tough to find a passion. So my thing that saved me, may I say what saved me?
Please, because I was going to ask
show
you.
you. Okay, guys. Needlepoint.
Oh, that sounds really exciting.
I know, it's so calming. I've done 5 pillows, 3 for myself and 1 for my godchild and 1 for one of my best friends. It's so calming, and I needed that. I needed that kind of, it's like adult coloring. I used to do that. You need things to calm you down and put you in a nice space, and stuff like that. But you have to find passion. And I'm looking for my new passion. I'm also looking for a husband, if that's possible. But it's hard when you don't leave the house and you're wearing a mask when you do. So that's a problem.
For some, it's an advantage. For me, it would be a big opportunity. Before we get to that, and I do want to get to that because relationships is something that becomes tougher and tougher as we age. But the finding the passion thing. So I'm having trouble envisioning you walking into the office that says Holocaust on the door, and they go, "Well, you want to work here? What qualifications do you have?" You go, "Well, I've written comedy on television." And so how do you in other words, what I'm getting at?
My dad, who was an attorney and a brilliant person, we lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where there was an active German Bund during the war. And my father was always very conscious of the rise of fascism. And he wrote articles and magazine pieces and everything. So I was very engaged in that. And one of the people I met was an agent whose best friend was Abe Foxman, who was a Holocaust survivor who ran the Anti-Defamation League. And I said, that's what I want to do. I don't know why, but that's what I want to do. So when I went in, they said, would you like to be a fundraiser? I said, no, I don't want to ask people for money, but what else could I do? And we thought about it. And then I said, well, how do you get your speakers? And they said, I don't know. We just do. I said, I can do that because I used to do casting. So we had a lot of offices around the country, and every time there was a dinner, I got the speakers and stuff like that. And that's how that happened. And then I was friends with Rabbi Cooper from the Wiesenthal Center. I told him I was ready to do something else. And he said, well, you're in New York. Would you like to be the UN observer? I said, sure. I knew nothing. And 7 years I did that.
So I guess the takeaway there for people that are thinking, well, shoot, I don't have those connections, or I don't have those
Go
people.
for it.
Find out who you have in your life. Who do you know? And maybe there's a way.
And be persistent. And it's, again, your passion. If you're passionate about something, you will do it. You will find a way. You will find a way.
A nice comment here from Lily Green saying, "You are a breath of fresh air. You make me feel great now in my 70s because
Oh,
I wore hot pants back in the 70s too."
oh,
Oh, yeah.
cool. But I'm only between 50 and death, but I'll take that.
That's right. Between 50 and death, which is the
Yeah,
only,
Andy
yeah.
Wayne said that, and I say it. And can I tell you a little story about that though? Because some people may not like it. When I was on the book tour, somebody asked me to do a radio show for a feminist woman, and I was very thrilled to do it. And she said something about age, and I said, well, I'm between 50 and death. And she got so angry with me. She said, that's setting women back, and we have to acknowledge our age, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, excuse me. First of all, I'm a guest on your show. You're being mean to me. Second of all, I was a feminist. I did the work. And one of the things we wanted was choice, the choice to have gray hair or blonde hair, to say your age or not, to get your face done or not, get it done, to have filler or not, get filler. You know, it's all about the choice. So when I say I'm between 50 and death, some people don't like it, but hey, and I also want to, find a guy. Don't forget that.
Nina Rajamaki says, "Bless you for saying that." And I think a lot of people just want to feel that it's okay to
It's
do
all
what they want to
okay.
do.
Whatever you want is okay, as long as it's authentic and as long as you really want to. Don't be forced into doing something you don't want to do. That I will say, I'm a combination of my parents. My father was an intellectual and needed to be alone a lot, which I do. It doesn't seem that it is. And my mother was very outgoing and very strong. So I'm like Sybil. I'm a half of each.
Yeah, so let's talk about relationships because you brought that up. It's a great topic, and there are many of us out there who are lonely. You can be married and be lonely. You could
That's the
live in
worst.
a
May I say, that is the worst. To be involved with someone sitting on a couch and being lonely, that's worse.
yeah, and you could be living in a house with 5 other people and be lonely. Alone doesn't necessarily mean lonely, but it is tougher to meet people. It is tougher to find. This was Susan had this column that she used to write that was very well received. She had kind of given up on the search for Mr. Right, so she called it the search for Mr. Adequate. And
there is no Mr. Right or Mr. Perfect, and particularly over 50. Please, none of us are perfect. So search for Mr. Adequate. I wrote for the New York Social Diary. And again, what was so interesting was I had like 35-year-old gals being my best readers. And I was thinking, why are they having these problems? But it's very hard. And you have to have an adequacy scale. There's 0. That's someone you would never do anything with. There's slightly adequate. Maybe you'll go for coffee. There's adequate. You could have some sort of relationship. There's more than adequate. You find that more than adequate guy and you turn him into the one. And I'm looking still. I mean, I've had some in between, but I'm looking.
It's been a long time though. I mean, do you get discouraged? Do you get,
Yes.
People get demoralized.
I have to tell you something funny. When I wrote the column, which was like 2011, I think, I had to join all the dating sites. Maybe it was later than that. I don't know. Anyway, and so I'm still on some of them, and I get like the weirdest people thinking they're appropriate, or they're thinking that they're appropriate for me. No.
So what do you do, Susan? Do you just laugh it off? There, you either go with comedy again, or do you say, "Oh my gosh, that was back in 2011, and it's I'm still sitting here in 2021, and it doesn't look like I'm getting any closer."
Well, I've had some dates in between. I've had a boyfriend in between. Now the last 2 years have been ridiculous. I have to wait for somebody to move next door to me. I had 2 single guys renting the apartment next door to me. Unfortunately, they had girlfriends, but that's what I'm waiting for. Now, the new renter has 2 little children, 3 and 6. So that's my other thing. I'm a baby whisperer. I love babies. I adore, and so I have 2 little kids now. And the other day there was a knock on the door. I had seen them the day before, and I said, "I have presents for you." And I look out the peephole, and there's nobody there. And the bell is ringing and ringing. I say, "Who's there?" And I hear these little voices. "We came for our presents." Oh, that made my day. So now I'm accumulating. It's hard to find presents for little boys, though. I have stuff around the house for her, but 6-year-old and 3-year-old going to be my new pals, my new relationship.
Do you know Linda Lewis?
Yes. Do I know her? She's my best friend.
That's what she said. Writing in the comments here in the feed. So
Oh my
maybe she would tell a different story about
Uh-oh.
you and relationships,
Uh-oh.
huh?
We only talk 5 times a day. And also, she's not a doctor, but she becomes whenever there's a medical thing, I ask her opinion on it. Yeah.
How are those leeches working for you?
No, she said that. You must have friends. There's nothing
Yeah.
more important in the world than friends. I could never get through without my friends, and I adore my friends. Now, I must say, when you're not working and you're at home, it's hard to meet new people, but I've met a couple new people through the internet and I met this fabulous photographer who has a website called Women Over 60. And may I show the unbelievable picture she took of me? So,
Oh yeah.
hello, Susie Lang. And she goes around shooting women in the street, not shooting, taking pictures of women in the street. And it's a great site. It's very empowering for women. And I'm going to tell you, those pictures cheered me. Boy, they gave me like a week of enthusiasm. When I saw that, I was like, oh, life is good.
See, here you are, and I know this happens because I watch these interviews and I see, hey, there's Susan Silver. She was a Hollywood person. She knows everybody, not a care in the world.
Oh.
Yet you go through the same things we do, the loneliness and the lockdown stress and
Listen,
wondering.
baby boomers all go through the same thing. We are fearful, we achieve, we're married, sometimes we're divorced. We take care of our elderly parents, which I did. We get sick. I almost died twice. I did have cancer, as you said. But cancer was the perfect example, Bill. I'm the person who, when I was little, if I had a broken nail, it would be like surgery, As I grew up and I had cancer, I said, I'm giving cancer 20%. I'm going to lose my hair, which I did. And I'm giving it 20%, and I'm living my life 80%. And that got me through. And nobody who knew me thought I would be able to do that. So we're a lot more resilient than we think we are.
How do you do it, though? I mean, it just seems so easy listening to you talk. When you're mired in the middle of that, though, and you see your hair is falling out, or nobody's calling, nobody's coming over.
Out, you have a friend, like I have a great friend who was my hairdresser, and he invited me over to his house. And we had some champagne, and he shaved all my hair off so I wouldn't have to go through that. And then he took me to a place to get 2 wigs. And I've lent those wigs to friends who have had cancer. And you just do it. And then you look back and you say, wow, I did it. But you did.
Were people afraid to talk to you when you had cancer? You know what I'm talking about? Like, we don't want to remind them that they have it, or we don't want to call up and go, oh, Susan,
oh,
hey,
no,
I'm just calling.
Email. It was easier than each person. I did like a 20-person email about my progress and whatever. And I had a fabulous doctor, and I was very fortunate. I had cancer of the spleen, which is a weird thing. It was discovered just by mistake in a routine exam, and 6 months of chemo. I didn't have to have radiation. And I did have chemo brain, though, where after you have the chemo, they put you on like a prednisone and you think you can do anything. I would like walk in front of cars and stuff. I mean, I was like totally out of control. But you know what? It was so long. It was 2001, I think I had it. Was it then? I don't remember. No, it was 2009. I'm sorry.
So what are you doing? Do you drink like green smoothies and eat nothing but
I lost weight during the pandemic, though. I don't know how, and I didn't go to the gym. I don't understand it. I order from Fresh Direct. I don't go to the grocery store. I don't know why, but I actually lost 3 pounds. So I exercise at home. Suzanne Summers of the Thigh Master, the 40-year-old thing that goes like that. And I ride my exercycle in my bedroom, and I don't know. I lost weight, which is weird.
So we kind of glossed over it. I never really asked you directly. Do you like being alone? Do you hate it but know how to deal with it, or how does that work?
You know something? I was interviewed by a psychologist who's doing a book about ambiverts. He said most people think they're either extroverts or introverts, but some of us are ambiverts, and I'm an ambivert. If I go out to a conference or I'm with a lot of people, I adore it, and I'm not shy, as you can see. And then I come home and I need 2 weeks to de-stress and detox, and I don't talk to anybody. I just read the paper. I don't answer the phone. So I'm in both worlds. I can do both. But this has been difficult. I mean it. It really has. You have to reach out to people. That's hard too, because you want people to reach out to you, and sometimes they don't. Hint, hint. To someone who might be watching. but you have to reach out to people, and you have to talk to your friends, and you have to be engaged in something. That's why I love the internet.
Yeah, we've had some pretty good chats, and I do hate to say that life sometimes does grab you and you get distracted, and the next thing you know is we haven't talked for months, right? We've had some pretty good
I used to love being on the show. Hint, hint.
Yeah. We've had some pretty good back and forths too, and we need to have you back because, Susan, you'll be happy to know that Patricia Bishop says this is one of the best interviews ever. Love, Susan Silver.
Thank you very much.
Nina Rajamaki says we should stop calling you Susan Silver and start calling you Susan Gold.
Oh, that's because I had the gold jacket on. But my husband's name was Silver, and it's such a good thing. SS, you know, it goes well as a credit.
It's pretty good. It's also good for ships.
It is?
Jeanette.
Oh, the SS. Yes. Hello. Okay.
Jeanette Stone says this chat is so refreshing. Susan is a fun and great interview. Susie Lang says thanks for the promo for the book, which is susielangphoto.com and women.60.plus on Instagram. Another great site like Growing Bolder, right? And you're just getting such great reaction. Do you want to what should we wrap up with? Is there something
I will say one thing, yes. When you're alone and you are alone and you do feel lonely, if you go to my website, which is www.hotpantsinhollywood, you can email me. And if you've read the book and like it, you can email me. And that means so much to me, and I'll email you back.
Oh, so you're that tough it's that tough these days, isn't it? Right? It's
email me. Please, God, email. No.
We're back to laughing again. I'm sure there's some jokes there as well.
Talk to me, somebody.
It's awesome. We got some great comments and great reaction from people that are in our audience week after week, you know, Susan, and they come here and they hear how different people make their way through life. And is your apartment, you're in the city? I'm guessing it's not the biggest place either, right?
It's not huge. My apartment is not huge, but my garden runs the length of my apartment, and that is a treat.
You say garden, I'm thinking, you know, what does she have, like 2 tomatoes and a pepper, or do you have like rows of corn? I can
take this and show you, but it's disconnect. No, I have 48 by 9 flowers and leaves and trees, and it's really, and tables to sit out there, and it's nice. Next time we'll do it outside.
Are you Ava Gabor?
Oh, am I living in it? What was she? Yeah.
It's like Green Acres.
Yeah, no, it's not Green Acres. It's what is it? It's nice. It's jungly. I don't like little prissy flowers. I like wild jungle things. I have a fabulous new guy come and plant for me.
Well, Ohan Gaoun says, thank you so much, Susan, for being in my life. And Lior Ophir says, liquid gold.
Oh, my boy. It's my soldier.
That's fantastic. You got such a great reaction.
They could watch. I'm like beside myself.
Well, you get a reaction because you're real, and because the things that you're not afraid to talk about are things that we
true. I'm not afraid to talk about anything. Oh God.
Are things we all do need to talk about. And I know there are another handful of topics that we could have hit on today as well, and we will have you back soon. You're tailor-made for streaming opportunities like this. And another reminder, because I do know that people out there are wondering about the book. It's called Hot Pants in Hollywood. And you can order it, check it out, or just learn a lot more about Susan Silver. There's where you go, hotpantsinhollywood.com. Susan, I want to thank you so much. She is a fascinating and caring person who has always lived life, you know, by trying to do the right thing, putting other people first and looking for the humanity in whatever happens in life. She gave us a lot of tips and lessons to help keep our own lives on track as well. I hope you enjoyed the chance to hear from her as much as we have. Our thanks to Susan Silver, and our thanks to you. And remember, there's so much to see and so much to learn about making the most of life at any age. And the place to find it is growingbolder.com. You'll find episodes of our TV show there. It's a TV show that's on public television stations across the country. A radio show. We have a podcast as well, where we talk to people like Susan, some of the biggest celebrities ever. We had Ed Asner on, and most of the cast from Mary Tyler Moore. And you'll be able to learn about Growing Bolder magazine as well, tools and resources on how to make the rest of your life some of the best years you've ever had, all that lives at growingbolder.com. Well, I'm Bill Schaefer, and that'll do it for me. So, big weekend, 3-day weekend this time. So get out there, live well, and make a difference for somebody else, folks, because that's growing bolder.